When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Yes, hello world, how are we? I hope you're all right, because I am better than all right. I've been recording all day and I've got a guest on the show now who I don't even know where she is because I didn't ask her, but I know that she's sitting somewhere with a mobile device in her hand, which has freaked me out so much that you can do that I can just sit at my computer and speak to somebody and they can be walking around their house at the same time. It just kind of blows my mind. So I just want you to know that I am a bit freaked out by technology tonight. I'm having a bit of a moment. But she is the author of the amazing new book, 21 Ways to Invite Excellence into Your Life. Growing up in a farming family, she spent many hours shooting, hunting, riding motorcycles, and of course horses, and loved the freedom the outdoors gave her. It was a carefree existence that fitted perfectly with her outgoing personality. But unfortunately, all of her childhood was not so carefree as she experienced a series of traumatic experiences capped by her mum's diagnosis with breast cancer. Blow after blow eroded her ability to trust and drove her to put up emotional walls she would struggle with for years. Existing behind those self-constructed barriers led to an unauthentic life which made her make choices that were safe and made her live the life she sensed others wanted her to live. This, of course, led to a life of unhappiness and emotional and physical issues, which once again she battled with. In 2010, her life seemed to fall apart both physically and emotionally. And after seeing numerous doctors, even at the university level, she was told, "You're not going to find what you're looking for in mainstream medicine." So she went outside and found a specialist who helped her to find the root causes of her health problems. Now, today, she's 100% free of all prescription medications and the healthiest she has ever been. But that was just the start of her life, as she has found once you find your authentic self, things start flowing in a different direction and with much more certainty of a great end product, an amazing life. So would she change those dark moments that she has experienced, or are they simply what makes her who she is today? Well, let's find out as we bring onto the show to start joining up the dots of her life, the one and only Jenny Hester. How are you, Jenny?
Hey, David, doing great today. How are you?
I am great, and I'll be honest, I'm still freaked out that you're just walking around your house speaking to me. I'm in the United Kingdom. Whereabouts are you?
I am actually in a small town in Kentucky, Henderson, Kentucky, in the USA.
And what room are you in at the moment?
I'm actually outside walking around my pool. we have an in-ground pool, and I'm outside walking around it in the sunshine. It's a beautiful day.
Does that not freak you out like it does me? Or am I just behind the times that I can be doing this? I can click a button and have a conversation with somebody while they are literally dipping their feet in a pool in a foreign country.
Absolutely. It's amazing. It's just simply amazing. I love it.
Do you like technology full stop, do you?
I do like technology. I do. I have at times programmed computers and different things. So I enjoy the technology side of it and the things that it allows you to do.
I'm going to ask you a question because I'll be very tactful, but you're a lady of a certain age who will understand while I'm talking about this. The youngsters won't out there, so this is just between you and me, Jenny. Do you remember the days when you used to have to program your video for when you went out the house?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember the rotary phones, David. My kids will look at it and they're like, "What is that?"
Yeah, I remember one of those.
Used to look like.
Yeah, and it used to make that noise, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because
my kids think that's cool.
Well, it is cool. It is cool. But my daughter the other day kind of got annoyed that she was going to miss her program, even though she was pausing it. And I said to her, when I was a kid, I would just miss it. If I had to go off to the toilet or something, that was it. You couldn't stop television like you can now, but she can just press it and pause it. And then I got into this big rant about actually having to program a video, and you could only decide on what channel you wanted. So if there was 2 programs you wanted, it wasn't going to happen. You could only have one. It's really has moved on, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I laugh today because my kids can sit around and watch cartoons basically 24/7. You know, we used to get up either early morning or Saturday morning were the only days for cartoons too. So it's just bombardment with with things for their attention all day long.
Oh,
computers, TV. Oh,
you're a
always.
lady from my heart. Yes. Kids TV, when I was a kid, it was about 15 minutes a day. There was nothing. But you kind of came home and you just kind of found something to watch. And when it finished, there was like nothing going on. You just kind of just lived. I don't know what we did with ourselves.
Absolutely. A lot of outside time back in those days.
Well, you did, didn't you? Yeah, as I was saying in the introduction. Where was the farm that you grew up in when you was running around shooting, hunting, and doing all those kind of things?
Yeah, I actually live about 40 minutes from there now. So it was here local, and grew up. I have an older sister, but she wasn't on the farm as much as my brothers and I were. And we spent many an hour out on that farm, especially during the summer. We would work most of the summer, and we painted barns and worked in the fields, and so feeding the cows and slopping the hogs and all those things that you hear about are things that we did. And of course, you know, it was a lot of fun back then. You just kind of ran loose out there and had a lot of freedom. And nature's toy box is what I called it. I was a tomboy, so I fit right in, and I loved those kind of things. My dad, he would teach us how to shoot the rifles, and that was a big thing at the end of the day. If you worked all day, you know, he'd go out and maybe let you shoot the .22 rifle for a little bit. So that was a lot of fun. Different things to do.
There was no such thing as health and safety in those days, was there?
Oh, no. No. I laugh about that today. You know, the things that we used to do, you know, you drinking out of the water hose, and now you have to drink it out of something filtered out of a bottle. And I'm like, really? You know, we drank that stuff right out of a hose. Who knows where it came from?
Yeah, and it didn't kill us. It didn't kill us at all. It gave us a personality for roughness. We can take the rough now, can't we?
Yes, absolutely.
So what is the things? I'm feeling nostalgic tonight, Jenny. So what is the things when you look back on and you kind of go, actually, it was a bit rubbish, or maybe you don't. Maybe you look back on your childhood and the majority of times you just think, yeah, it was great.
You know, I really did have a great childhood as far as growing up and having two parents that cared about us and loved us and showed us what family was about and faith and just having a good time. I had a lot of good friends. I remember playing ball in the yard, you know, baseball and football, and the neighbors would come down, and it was the kind of time where you didn't think about somebody snatching you out of the yard like I do now. You know, my kids, if they go next door, I'm like, hey, you need to call me if you go over there, or let me watch you walk next door. So those were really carefree times.
Well, we have the same situation in the United Kingdom. We are obsessed with kids being snatched. And yes, it does happen, but it happens once in a blue moon, you know. And if it does, the whole world hears about it, and we talk about it for the next 5 years. And I think it's a shame that my children aren't growing up with that freedom that I had in the 70s, where it was, what time do I have to be home, Mum? When it gets dark. And that was it. We just cleared off, and that was it. We went off and had adventures and made camps in woods and stuff. And now my son, who's 12, I literally have to drag him away from his Xbox because he's got his headphones on and he's talking to people, and he's having his social life and never seeing anyone. And it's the kind of thing that we do, well, I suppose what we're doing now, really, Jenny.
Yeah, we talk about our kids, but yet we're doing it also. No, I agree with you, David. It's a different world from when we grew up in. And it's just the way it is, and you deal with it the best you can.
Well, you seem a very positive person, but I know that maybe you haven't been in that positive state of mind all your life, because as we said in the introduction, you've had difficulties in your life which made you change direction from the person you perhaps were as a youngster. Can you remember the sort of one of the first times when you realized actually that things were turning badly for you? Or maybe as a child you didn't appreciate it was bad, it was just something that happened.
Right. You know, the way I am today is the way that I believe that God designed me to be, you know, an encourager and upbeat and positive. But it wasn't. I think I was that way early on in my life. I always remember, you know, wanting to be there if a friend needed me and showing support for them. But my trust, when I talk about that, my trust was kind of degraded to an extent because my trust was taken advantage of. And when I talk about the diagnosis of my mother as a teenager, and you know, my mom was to me my best friend. We shared a lot of great times together. I was very close to my mother, and she passed away when I was 20. But all through those years, I saw her struggle with that, and then I fought with my past issues of not confronting what had happened and acknowledging those facts. And it really wore on me, and it made me build up some walls and bricks, the brick wall inside of me that I didn't let down, and I didn't let people in. Everything was external, you know. I didn't live that authentic life of truly looking inside, finding out who we are, allowing myself to feel things that I should feel and acknowledge things about myself, and embracing my flaws and imperfections, and taking those to heart and kind of beating myself up about having those imperfections instead of letting it be okay. And so for a long time I lived that way, and that's a hard way to live, and it really wears on you when you're not your true self, your true authentic self. And but that's you know, part of who I am now. So I just embrace that and want to learn from it and try to grow from it.
So when your mother unfortunately passed away when you were 20, I suppose at that stage you're starting, well, you've already started to find yourself, and you are separating yourself from the sort of family world. Would it have been more difficult if she'd passed away at the age of 8? I'm just sort of saying that hypothetically. Or did you have a relationship with your mother that got stronger as you became a woman yourself?
No, I think, you know, I'm glad that I had my mother as long as I did, absolutely. Because, you know, we only have one mom, and they just mean so much to you. And so I was absolutely, as I got older, I got to learn more about my mother and who she was as a person, and she was a woman of very strong faith. You know, it was funny because I never once heard my mother complain in all the years that she was ill. And I look back and see her and my dad, and I never remember them fighting. If there were issues, they never showed it in front of us. And those are just good memories that I have about her and her strength and what she wanted us to see. You know, she kind of hid that side of herself, the pain that I know that she went through, that she didn't share that with us and didn't put that kind of added stress on us as kids. And I look at that now, and when I see my children, I think, you know, if I were put in that same situation, I would like to think that I did not add that kind of stress to my children's life, because, you know, as kids, we go through enough as it is, just trying to find out who we are and growing up and understanding life. There's just so much going on. So that is something that I hope that I could do for my children if it ever came, God forbid it ever happened, but if it ever came to it.
How do you find yourself at that age? Because, you know, I'm 44 years old, and I say this all the time. I'm only really finding myself now, I feel. It feels like everything in my life is finally coming together, and I have found my unique self, my authentic self. So how have you gone about that to find the person that you've mentioned 2 or 3 times in this conversation that is you?
Well, about 4 years ago, back in 2010, I had been having some physical issues with pain in my muscles and my joints, and just being really tired and fatigued. And that, along with that, I had a lot of anxiety and stress, and just found that I couldn't deal with another episode of anything as far as stress wise, and going forward or facing any kind of fear. And it all kind of came to a head for me, physically and emotionally. I don't know if you'd call that a breakdown or whatever you have it, but it just came to a head for me. And finally, I had went to, as you said in the opening, to many, many different physicians to try to get help, and they all wanted to give me something for the pain or something to treat the symptoms. It was never, let's find out what the root cause is, until I met up with an integrative physician who started working with me, and we did what's called an elimination diet. So I started taking things out of my diet and found out that I had sensitivities to certain foods, and I eliminated those from my diet as best I could, and still do to this day. And so I feel healthier there. But then I also had to deal with the emotions from my past. And you know, I look back, you talk about joining up the dots. I look back over time, and I see where I had opportunities to face the traumas early on in my life, but I didn't want to go there. It was too painful and I was afraid of it. So I didn't. I just kept stuffing those emotions down deep inside. And so all that stuffing festered for all those years, and emotionally it was just wearing me out. And I found a wonderful, wonderful counselor who she worked with me and talked to me about healing. And, you know, I did not want to share with them what had happened, but I had to. And she told me, you know, she said, Jenny, sometimes we're brought to a point in our life where it's just time to heal. And it was my time to heal. And so going through that, what a wonderful process. Once I removed that pain from inside and I wasn't afraid to get in there and look around, you know, I started checking some things out and kind of liked what I saw. So I was starting to find out who Jenny really was at that point. Through self-awareness, I can't say enough good things about self-awareness and learning who we are. And for me, you just can't go forward in life unless you find out about yourself and what makes you tick and what makes, you know, what ticks you off.
Well, that's what this show is all about. You know, it's the reflection. It's looking back at your life and realizing that there are dots that lead you to where you are. And the fascinating thing that you said was you realized that there were dots in your life that you could look back on and you could have confronted certain issues you were having at the time, but you weren't aware enough or you weren't strong enough to be able to do it. What kind of dots did you feel that you could have conquered?
You know, I remember when I first went to college, I had wanted to look into psychology, sociology, something like that. But when I got into some of those psychology classes and I had to start looking around at some of that stuff emotionally, I was like, I'm not going there. I'm not going to study this. And I actually went for and got a business degree instead. So I look and I think you could have done that. And I also remember at one time early on in my life, I had contacted a friend of mine who was a counselor, and I was referring someone to her, and she said, Jenny, we need to sit down and talk about why you're getting yourself into these dysfunctional, unhealthy relationships. But I did not pursue that, and I did not want to go there. So I had opportunities, but for whatever reasons, like you said, not being strong enough, I feel like that we are nudged in certain directions where we need to heal and grow. But we can certainly put our blinders on and not want to go there. And so in 2010, my nudging got very strong, almost kind of knocking my feet out from under me, going, you're gonna heal and you're gonna be what you're supposed to be. And that's kind of where I feel like I'm at.
And so how did the knocking get so strong that you really assessed and knew that you had to go off in a different direction?
Well, for one thing, my health was failing. You know, just having a lot of problems with my health. There were times when I was approached at my work about taking on a different position or doing something different. But see, I was comfortable where I was. And just thinking about making a mistake or having people look at me and think I didn't know what was going on or couldn't make a right decision, it just overwhelmed me that I couldn't even go there because I didn't have any self-esteem, no confidence, anything. And so that was really dragging me down, and it was starting to wear on me in that aspect as well.
And but it seems amazing to me that you are somebody here that in every picture I see, you're radiating a smile. You look like you look like you're a garden that's just bloomed into life. I can't imagine you ever, you know, being anything other than what I'm seeing today. So it's fascinating that you've had such a transformation to there to here in just 4 years. Does it seem amazing to you that you have turned it around so physically and emotionally?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to write a book, because, you know, I just want to get up on the rooftop and scream it to every woman out there who's struggling. You can do this. There is a way. And I just share the ways that I implemented into my life to help me learn that self-awareness, learn the personal development, and become a stronger, more courageous, healthy person who's confident and, you know, and has a hope for the future now.
So was it an idea of yours to write a book, or was it somebody else saying to you, as normally happens, Jenny, you should write a book on this? And Jenny goes, oh, no, I'm not a writer. What have I got to say? So how did it come about?
Well, I actually started out blogging first. It didn't actually come out as the book first. So I started blogging first, and working with my coach, CommandZ, we had talked about that, about, what's the next step? And then, of course, the logical next step was, let's write a book and let's put it all together in one. Because, sometimes going through a blog, you have to go back through all these different posts, and sometimes they don't relate. And so we decided to put a book together. So that's how it all came about.
And CommandZ Constable has been on episode 7 and also on 132. Is he the episode before you? I'm just double checking on my list here. Yes, he was yesterday. So if anybody is interested about the guy that Jenny's talking, you've got 2 chances to catch up with him, because he is a fascinating character, isn't he?
Yes, he is. And he's in high gear all the time. He's making a lot of things happen, and he loves to share that passion with other people. And I just can't say enough good things about him as far as a coach, being a life coach, or in my case, he's kind of a book launch coach for me and getting all this started. Just a wonderful man, just a wonderful human being. Got a lot going on, and he knows how to succeed and make things happen.
Were you inspired by his struggles? We're not going to delve into CommandZ because that's not part of this story, but he did have struggles that he overcome, huge struggles. Is that more inspiring to you to have a coach that has been through it than somebody that seemingly has success written all over them?
That's a good question, David. I never really thought about that. I admire CommandZ for all that he's accomplished, and I think that sometimes that may lead a little bit into those decisions, but for me, CommandZ was first instrumental in me blogging, and so it was just a no-brainer for me to call him when I wanted to go to the next step, because he is such a caring person. And when somebody comes alongside of you and kind of puts you under their wing and says, "No, I want to help you," and they're authentic about it, and you can feel that they're real as a person, you just kind of get a closeness with them, and I think that's part of it as well. He's just a real person. It's when you talk to him, you're not going to get anything that's fake.
What is it about the book that you are proud of? And we're going to actually start delving into those 21 ways, because obviously there's going to be thousands of ladies out there, thousands of men who are going to be fascinated by what they can get from it. But what are you most proud of, first of all?
Well, I'm most proud of that I had the courage to share myself with others. Typically, I would not have done this. So just overall, the fact that I'm even actually out there sharing my emotions and the things that I have learned, and kind of putting myself out there, because, it's hard putting yourself out there because you're open to everything. You're not only open to praise, but you're open to ridicule. So I think that to me is really the most proudest thing about the book. It's overcoming that fear.
That's a key thing, isn't it? For anyone out there listening, it is fear, isn't it? Fear is what stops us from attempting anything. It's the thing that roots us to the spot. And so you felt that tangibly, did you? That there was a fear about actually putting yourself out there?
Absolutely. And I have fought fear every step of the way. You get those thoughts that come into your head that say, who do you think you are? What makes you think you can write a book? What credentials do you have? You fight that the whole time, and then it's your past is going to come back to haunt you. People are going to find out things. They're going to share things that you're not going to want others to know. I fought that every step of the way, and it's hard. But then again, as I would take that next step, another door would open, or I would get an invitation, or somebody would say, "Hey, I like what you're doing," or "You've helped me in some way." And that encouragement, it helped me to continue to take the little steps. A little step here, a little step there. The main thing was don't stop. Just keep going. Keep the momentum going.
Now, that's what I want the listeners to really understand. You started something and you were scared. And you started and you didn't know how to do it. So what you did, you invested in yourself and you reached out to a coach. And this comes up time and time again in conversations. The fastest way to get going in anything is by tapping into somebody who has been there before. Not only have you then got their knowledge base that you can use, but also you've got their experience and you've got their comfort when times get tough. Without CommandZ, do you think that you would have allowed those thoughts to take control of you?
You know, they very well could have. They very well could have. He helped to push me and keep me encouraged. I also want to give a shout out to really the person, my number one supporter is my older sister. She is aware of everything that I'm doing, and she has told me, I'm not going to let you quit. It's too important. So, and she's one of them that said, I read your book and it has helped me. So those kind of encouraging comments have been just tremendous. And a coach will do that for you, absolutely. If you want somebody to push you and help you get started, by all means, I highly recommend a coach. I would think that I have a coach, will have a coach in everything I do in the future in my life.
And your sister agreed with everything in the book, or was there anything that she said, well, I'm not quite sure you've got this right? It's not how I remember it.
You know, it's not so much stories about the past, but the things that I have learned and related to my past. So there was really nothing in the book that she pretty much agreed. And she said, you have helped me look at things from my past in a different perspective, and helped her heal and helped her grow. And there were some ways in there that I talked about that the counselor helped me to work through my issues. She said, I'm going to try that. I haven't done that, but I'm going to do it.
You love this, don't you? You love the fact that you have overcome this. You love the fact that you have now put yourself out there, and you've got a book, and things are, well, opportunities, I suppose, are coming your way. And they're only coming your way because you've stepped up and you actually, you took action and you conquered your fear. You love it, don't you?
You know, David, absolutely. And even being on this podcast today, this is something that I fear. I fear speaking in public or getting out and putting myself out in front of people. It's that fear of rejection. So whenever I do this, it's another step of overcoming that fear. And I have, one of the things that keeps me going is I have such a passion. I have such a soft spot for other women who are struggling or hurting and want to get moving and taking those next steps. I want to share with them that they can do it. You know, we are so much more than what we allow ourselves to be. We hide ourselves in our jobs and our families and stay in that little world, but we were created to be so much more. And I just want to shout that out to all the women, all the men out there, if they're listening, that we are so much more than what we are allowing ourselves to be. And once you find it, this is so freeing. The freedom that I have found through this, even though, you know, I'm still afraid that there's going to be things that are said that are going to be very hurtful. And, you know, how am I going to deal with that? I don't know. I'll deal with it as it comes up. So, but absolutely, to start taking the steps.
Let's play some words that are hugely motivational, and they tie in so much with what you're saying. This is Jim Carrey.
My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job. And our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love.
Isn't that what you're saying?
Absolutely. I love that from Jim Carrey. That is, you know, and it's one thing that now that I get to share this with my kids, and I talk to it about with my kids, and they're seeing me do things, although they don't get all excited. I'm like, I wrote a book, and they're like, okay. It's like, you're just mom. But I get to share these insights and these awareness with my kids that had I not known them, I would not be able to share that what I think is true wisdom. And I don't say that wisdom is from me. It's something I have learned. And I don't know that I would have gone into those areas and learned these things had I not really been forced into a situation where I had to grow. So yeah, there's a great book out there called Who Moved My Cheese? I don't know if you've ever read that, but it's talking about about being prepared for the future. You know, it's like, and what that is just continuing to grow as a person, about, you know, always be a lifetime learner, educate yourself, read things. If there's something you're passionate about, throw yourself into it. And that's a good thing to learn about your passions. It says, you know, if you go to Amazon or to a bookstore, what section of the books do you go into? What do you like to read about and learn about? Those are keys to your passions, and your passions are keys to your purpose. So I love reading the self-help, the personal development books. I sit for hours and read and take notes. And so I know that this is my calling, because of that, my passions have led to it.
But what you're doing with your kids is brilliant, and I think it is so powerful for all of us. So many adults in the world today have gone into jobs and they're trapped. They're trapped physically, they're trapped emotionally. They can't see that they have got opportunities. And that's what this show is all about, getting them to realise that they have. And just from the emails that I get on a daily basis when people have been saying to me, since listening to your show, I realise that I can have the kick-ass life that I want, but I have to do something about it. How can I do it? And I will connect with them and we will sort of help them out. But we've all got a responsibility now, I think, to actually help the kids before they get to that point. And so you're doing the book and you're writing it, and they don't seem too fussed at the moment. But what you're doing, you're planting the seed in their head that, hey, mummy's doing something different. Mummy's doing something that lights her up inside, and mummy's doing something that is going to make the world a better place. And that is hugely powerful, isn't it, for youngsters to see. So when they do come out of college or university or whatever, hopefully, fingers crossed, my dream is that they don't instantly just have to go into a humdrum job, but they can look around and they can find the things that light them up inside and build income around it.
Absolutely, David. And you took the words right out of my mouth when you said planting seeds, because that is so true. You know, they may look at you and their eyes glaze over, their eyes will roll back in their head and like, whatever. But keep talking to your kids about positive, encouraging things. You are planting those seeds for later. I'm doing that with my daughter now. She is a senior in high school, and she wants to go into elementary education. And so we've kind of worked through this process about, at first she thought she wanted to do with autistic children. And then she said, well, I think maybe I just want to do elementary education. So we're kind of working through that process. And so this year she will be working at a local preschool through her high school. And that's going to help give her some insight. But I tell her, you know, whatever you do, make sure that you're passionate about it, and the money will come. You know, don't just pick a job for the money. So absolutely, you have to encourage your kids. I never heard that when I was young. I never heard, you were put here, you have a purpose, you have passions, we need to help you find them. I never heard that. It was, you know, when you get out of high school, you need to get a job.
Yeah, absolutely. I was the same. I left college with qualifications, and I said to my mum, I remember I was 16, and I said, I'm going to take 6 months off because I just felt like I'd had enough of education and I needed a break. And she said to me, no, you're not, you're going to get a job. And she actually wrote the job applications for me and sent them off. I didn't have a choice in it. And I ended up doing 13 years with a company. But I look back on, and it gave me a grounding. It gave me a work ethic. It gave me all the kind of things that I do on a daily basis now. But it wasn't my passion. But I just didn't know what I wanted to do in life. And it does take a while. And one of the things that stop people so much is when people say, find your passion, because it's very hard if you are not giving yourself time to actually look around. So I'm going to throw this out to you, Jenny, because this is something that we've touched on, and I talk about it all the time now because I think this is amazing. But they reckon that between the ages of 8 and 14 is when your true passions are evident on literally a daily basis. That's when you are kids, before you start thinking, right, a couple of years later, I've got to get a job, and the responsibilities and sort of young adulthood comes in. At that age, if you look back to what you loved to do, you would be closest to finding your passions than at any other time in your life. So your daughter, how old's your daughter?
She just turned 18.
Right, so she's only got to remember 4 years ago or 10 years ago, and she can remember the younger girl that she is. And if she loved looking after people and nurturing and all that kind of stuff, then yeah, she's in the perfect job to be looking after autistic kids and sort of young kids and all that kind of stuff. But if she looks back at that stage and then she realised that all she wanted to do was play with animals or whatever, she might be in the wrong channel, and she should be looking at being a vet or whatever like that. And so it is fascinating that all our passions are linked back to our childhoods, and that's why I've called this show Connecting Our Past to Build Our Future, because we need to look back, and that gives us a head start to build the life we want.
You know, that's fascinating because I'd never heard that about between the ages of 8 and 14, so I'm going to remember that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, you sit down there with your daughter and have a conversation and say, can you remember what you really loved doing when you came home from school, and write a list. And once you got that list down, you look at it and you can see threads through it. And if she is fulfilling those threads, then she's got a good chance to have a life that really does fulfill her.
Yeah, and we've had that, it's funny because we've had the conversation when she was young. She loved to play school, and she was the teacher. The neighbor kids didn't like it because Cammie was always the teacher. But that's what she liked to do. And she said, I remember all that stuff and all that teacher stuff, and I loved it. I loved all the little cards and things that they had. So she's on the right path anyway. I know she's close.
Absolutely. It sounds like she's very, very close. And that's got to make you proud as a mother, that you are getting your daughter on a path which is more true than you actually had.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I have two more after her. One is 13 and one is 9. Another daughter, and my youngest is a son. So, yeah, it's amazing to watch them grow and to see how unique little individuals they are. And they're all three so different. And so you have to try to change your parenting skills to each one to fit each one. And that's a challenge some days.
Can you look back on your life and can you join the dots? The theme of the show is Join Up Dots, and we're going to play Steve Jobs in a minute. But can you look back with the reflection of, a mature lady who's been through a lot and actually go, yes, I wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for this and this and this? Can you see the dots?
Oh, absolutely. And I think part of it is when you have those struggles in your life, that makes you a stronger person. But you put those struggles in your life, and it helps to build you to become who you are. When you see those things, they're kind of the scars of life, right? You have scars on your heart from your past, and those scars are going to cause one of two things. They're either going to cause destructive behaviors in your life, or they're going to make you a stronger, more knowledgeable person. And so when I look back, I think, I went in that opposite direction on the destructive side, to where I allowed myself to just lock everything down and not be honest and open and allow myself to be who I was designed to be. So now, here at 46, I finally get to see that other side, where those areas in my life where I had struggles, I have grown from those, and I have certainly learned, and I'm at just such an amazing place in my life right now, with the freedom that I feel that I have for the first time in my life. It's amazing.
Well, let's play the words of Steve Jobs, who says it in an amazing way as well. This is Steve Jobs.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
Now you're in a good place. Do you hear those words, following your heart, building confidence? Does that excite you, or does it not build up fear in you, because you can confront fear now, but does it sort of give you anxiety that once again you're going into areas that you don't know what you're going into?
I don't think I would be human if I said I didn't have some anxiety about opening those doors, because that's getting out of your comfort zone, right? So once you start getting out of that comfort zone, you start to feel a little anxiety over there. But it's being okay with that stress, being okay with that anxiety. Just feel it and keep walking, keep going through it. As far as my future, I'm so excited about things that are happening, and I want to do so much more, and starting to work through those things. I'm just real optimistic about what I can do in the future. As far as letting things happen, that's something that I have learned recently, is if I quit trying to control the situation and just let it go and let it kind of play out, I have found that probably 99% of the time things really work out for the best if I just let go of it. And I'm a spiritual person, so I do believe in God, and I think that God just kind of takes those things and allows them to work out, but we have to get our hands off of it so he can do the work.
And that's what Steve Jobs was saying, basically, wasn't it? You've got to just have trust and faith that it's going to work out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's a new mindset. You have to change your mindset. I talk in the book about, the thoughts. You have to control your thoughts, because our thoughts from when we're little, at least for me, it was a lot of negativity, and I had really beat myself up. And so I had to learn how to change how I thought, and changing those mindsets. And really, that makes so much difference. I'm just, my situation that I'm in has not changed, but I have changed. And when we start becoming our best self, it helps all of our relationships. My marriage is better. I feel like I'm a better wife, a better mother, everything, a better friend, just a better person.
I've never shared this story on any show, but when it comes to mindset, I've always basically had a positive mindset all through my life. And I've always been very lucky. I've had no sort of bad times in my life at all. It's just been pleasant. It's just floated through. And then I got made redundant once when I'd been sort of working really hard to get up to the top of the ladder, and they suddenly said, this is your last day. And it was about an hour later, I was out. And I sat on the train going home, and I thought to myself, I've got no idea what I'm going to do in my life now. This is what I was working towards. What the hell do I do? And so I decided what I was going to do was change direction totally and become a student and go back to college and get a degree. And so that's what I did. And I went back to college and I studied. And once I got that education, I couldn't get a job. And I just thought my life was pathetic. And I was desperate to take any job I could. And the job I did take was the lowest paid job that I'd had for about 15 years. I could barely survive on it. But I still took it because I had to go out and get to work and keep that work ethic going. But what it gave me was a sense of, when I was at my lowest point, things were pretty pathetic around me because I was allowing them to be that way. And when I started to change my mindset and go, no, hang on, I don't deserve this, I should be back where I was, things started to change for the better, and I pulled myself out of it. And it was only probably about 5 months of not hell in any shape or form. I was still working and coming home, but it was the lowest point that I'd had in my life. And it was only down to me to pull myself out of it. And I did that. And it is purely down to mindset.
I agree with you 100%, David. I just think that we truly are what we think about. If you fill your mind with negative, self-degrading thoughts, you're just going to walk around with your head hung down and, who am I to be helping anybody? But, if you can pull your shoulders back, hold your head up high and say, I'm here. I have a purpose. I have a reason. I am somebody. I'm a good person. Those are the kind of thoughts that we need to be putting into our mind. And being thankful, having a heart of gratitude, being thankful for all we have. Because I can assure you, you can look around and somebody else is worse off than you.
Well, that's a given, isn't it? We all,
absolutely.
We all think that we're in a bad situation when our Wi-Fi doesn't work or that the milk's gone off in our fridge. But when you look around, and that's the unfortunate thing, most of us don't look around because we're in very comfortable situations. And we get in our cars and we drive to work. And you really have to go looking for the people who are worse off because we kind of don't allow them to come into our lives in many ways.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's a lot worse things typically that can be happening to us in the situation we're in. So we should be grateful for even where we're at, even when we think it's the lowest. Be grateful in that situation too, knowing in our minds it will get better. Tomorrow's a new day. I'm not going to stay here forever.
Right, just before I send you back in time to have a one-on-one with your younger self, this is the end of the show, I've got a question that I like to ask. And it's this question. It's very simple. Do you think everyone out there, all the listeners, can have a kick-ass life?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because it's all about that mindset. It's about self-awareness, being aware of who you are, being okay with who you are. Number one, yeah, we all have flaws. My life is not perfect by any means. I could start to list off all the things that are bad, but I'd rather tell you all the things that are good in my life. Why would I sit here and talk about everything that's bad? Where's that going to take you? It's going to take you down deep in a hole that you're not going to get out of. So don't live there. Be grateful for what you have. Be grateful for who you are. And yes, we all have flaws, but we also have very good things in our personalities also. And we are capable of doing wonderful things for other people. And that's where we should live. And it doesn't mean that living a life of excellence or a kick-ass life is living on a yacht somewhere and having more money than you can spend. It's about being okay with who you are and having, friends around you and family and people that you love that you can share with, and learning and growing. Life is about learning and growing and changing. Don't stay stuck in a rut forever, because that's not what it's about. Life is not meant to be drudged through. It's an exciting journey that everyone should embrace every day with, what is going to happen today, because this is an adventure.
Well, let's see what your younger self would make of you now, because this is a part of the show that we send you back in time. And if you could go back in time to speak to the younger Jenny, what age would you choose and what advice would you give? Well, we're going to find out, because I'm going to play the tune, and when it fades, you're up. This is the Sermon on the Mic. Ooh, ah, ooh,
here we go with the best bit of the show, the Sermon on the Mic, the Sermon on the Mic. Ooh, ah, ooh.
What I would tell my younger self, I would like to tell my younger self when I was about 20 years old, is to find a mentor that you admire and want to emulate, someone who has the heart of a teacher. Stay away from that party crowd. That's the boys and the booze. It's nothing but a bad ending on those. So stay away from all that. Don't let your past define your future. When you fall in love, love like you won't be hurt. Don't be so selfish. You will find that you like giving more than receiving. Don't put expectations on anyone but yourself. That's a recipe for disaster. Be interested in other people to show true interest with them. Self-awareness is a major key to success. And failure is only failure if you don't get back up and try again. You don't have to think every thought that comes into your mind, so fill your mind with positives. Take some risk. It's okay if you fail. At least you tried, and that is more than what most accomplish. Understand what fear is. Read Stephen Pressfield's book, The War of Art, to have a greater understanding of fear. Then you'll not be so afraid. Take care of your body. It's the only one you have. Learn to love without expecting anything in return. Turn off all the distractions and take time to sit quietly with your thoughts. Spend time alone with yourself. You're going to like who you are. Find a way to make peace with yourself, because everywhere you go, there you are.
Love that. And I hope the young Jenny loved it as well. So, Jenny Hester, how can our audience connect with you? You've got the book coming out, or it's already out now. So how can they actually connect with you and your book?
Right. They can go to jenniferhester.com to find out more about the book, and they can purchase it on Amazon.com, Barnes & Nobles, and those different venues.
We will have the links on our show notes. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, joining up those dots. And please come back again when you have more dots to join up, because I do believe that by joining up the dots and connecting our pasts is the best way to build our futures. Jenny Hester, thank you so much.
Thank you, David.
David doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice that every successful entrepreneur practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.